We come from eternity and we return back to eternity, because we got two parts to our beings. The material part of our being belongs to the Creator, and our ancestors, as I said before, is the nearest to the Creator, and we are the ancestors. Every single one of us here is the ancestors. Actually, every one of us here is the best of our ancestors, and there's millions and millions of people in that one body. Everyone in one body here, millions of people. We share that. It's not only a genetic thing, and we know it's genetic. It's psychological, physical, and it's social as well. So I'm going to call some names. Because this is a medical thing, I'll call on the great multi-genius that lived 4,000 years ago. His name is Imhotep. And I want you to say Ashe. As you know, Imhotep was the god of medicine for like thousands of years. He was a he's a multi-genius anyway. We call in another medical person. His name is a contemporary of Imhotep. His name is Ra. We call in another ancient Kemetan. His name is Amenhotep. Amenhotep, son of Apu, he was a high priest, and he is known for his medical skills. Ashe. We call on, I'm just thinking of the names. We call on Queen T. We call on Queen Hatshepsut. We call on Tutankhamun. We call on his mother, Queen T, as I did before, Ashe. We call on the Honorable Spirit of Marcus Garvey. I'm not doing this in any chronological order, I'm doing back and forth. Actually, let me look at my list that I wrote, so just to remind me of the names. Sorry. Usually ad-lib, but I wrote some names down because I tend to forget. So we call on Shaka. Anybody know who Shaka is? The Zulu Emperor and Zulu King. Ashe. We call on his mother, Queen Nandi, who made him the man that he is. Ashe. We call on his brother Dingani. Ashe. We call on his disciple and his nephew Satuwayo. We call on Hannibal from Carthage. Ashe, great warrior king. We call on Queen Makeda. Ashe. We call on Ten Kameni, which is the Ghanaian king of ancient Ghana. Ashe. We call on Mansa Musa. Ashe. We call on Queen Nzinga of Angola. Ashe. We call on Amina of Nigeria. Ashe. Queen Amina. We call on Osei Tutu. Ashe. His chief priest that formed called the formation of the Ashanti Empire. His name is Komfo Nochi, Ashe. We call on Samori Touré of Guinea, Ashe. Call on Queen Mother Moore. And I'll probably ask you to call some names. Yeah?
Menelik the second.
Say it again, brother.
Menelik the second.
Menelik the second.
Yeah.
Warrior King, Warrior King Menelik the second of Ethiopia, Ashe.
Kwame Nkrumah.
Kwame Nkrumah, Ashe. Thank you, brother.
Dottie Bookman.
Bookman from Haiti. The voodoo priest that started the greatest revolution in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, Ashe. Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Toswana Literature, Ashe. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, Ashe.
Khalid Abdul Mohammed.
Dr. Khalid Abdul Mohammed, Ashe. Dr. John Henry Clark. Malcolm X, Ashe. Sheikh Anton Diop.
Huey P. Newton.
Huey P. Newton, Ashe. And when you call in their names, when you call people's names, the spirit will live when you call their name. You call in their essence into being. And you're saying, what? You're talking rubbish, huh? Spirit is energy, and energy goes everywhere. Okay, any more names?
Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh.
Peter Tosh, Ashe.
Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton.
Fred Hampton, Ashe.
Dr. Sabi.
Dr. Sabi, Ashe. Patrice Lumumba, Ashe. Sankofa. Who? Thomas Sankara, Ashe.
Haile Selassie.
Haile Selassie, Ashe. You mean that water? Professor Amos Wilson, Ashe.
He was called Steve Biko.
Steve Biko, Ashe. When is this?
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, Ashe. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Ashe.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, Ashe. And these are the people who made us who we are. That's why we call them. They are the ascended ones. But this is why we call them their names. Don't be scared to call their names. Everybody else do it. Everybody else honor their ancestors. If you don't honor your ancestors, then you finish. Any more names?
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, Ashe. Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker, that great multi-genius, Ashe. I could call some names. Jacob Carruthers.
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks, Ashe. Philip Rundle, Ashe.
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King, Ashe. Dr. Benja Cannon, Ashe. Any names? We all know names. We all have heroes that we all have heroes. So call some names, people.
Nina Simone.
Nina Simone, Ashe.
Abiola Andre.
Abiola Andre, Ashe.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, Ashe. Paul Bogle from Jamaica, Ashe. None of their Maroons, Ashe.
Gasoline the Ferocious.
Say that again, brother.
Gasoline.
Dessalines.
Yeah, Gasoline the Ferocious.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines from Haiti, Ashe.
Che Guevara. Che Guevara.
Che Guevara, Ashe. Fidel Castro, Ashe. This whole session is dedicated to this brother here. His name is Neil Myers. David Myers. David Nelson Myers. I went to his funeral a few months ago in the summer. He was only a young brother, came from Trinidad here to study. I think he was studying engineering, and he died, died mysteriously and suddenly. So it's David Myers. I'm just going to light a candle to him. And we're going to, so just to illuminate his way so he can find his way into the ancestral realm. So we're just going to light a candle. Anybody got... And we want you just to say 3 ashes for this brother. The whole session is dedicated to this brother. So ashe, 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 ashe. You're scared to say ashe. It's like saying amen. Ashe means so let it be. The creator in the Yoruba system is called Olodumare. And everything in nature has the spirit of Olodumare in it. That's where Ashe comes from. In the Kemetic system, the creator God is Amen or Amun. And everything has the Ra energy in it. You watch Star Wars, the Force, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the energy of the creator. This is in everything. It's in the plant, it's in the tree, it's in everything. It's in the water. Without water, we don't exist. So it's in everything. So Ashe. Brother David Myers, David, isn't it? David. Ashe, Ashe. May he find his way and assume whatever form he wish. Ashe, Ashe. May the ancestors accept him in the council of elders. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thank you very much.
We have our first speaker, Nai-Davina, and Nai-Davina is a certified yoga teacher, holistic doula, using her knowledge and experiences to empower women and promote womb health and education during pregnancy and childbirth. Nai created Mega Yoga, which combines the two of the oldest knowledge systems, yoga and astrology, incorporating postures, African Tai Chi, alignment, pranayama, taking the student on a spiritual journey through the cosmic cycles. Please give a round of applause for Nai-Davina.
Greetings, everyone. So thank you for that warm welcome, Camila. My name is Nai-Davina, and as it says on there, I'm a qualified yoga teacher. I write columns for the Voice newspaper, and I'm a doula. I also do astrology consultations, and I've took some time to do a PowerPoint. This is my first PowerPoint, by the way. So I'm just going to go through it and talk about all the different areas that I'm going to work on 3 specific areas that I work on in terms of health and well-being. So So the 3 areas that I'm going to talk about today is physical health, energetic self, and womb health. So the physical health being around yoga and the ancient practice of yoga, the origins of yoga. Energetic self, understanding astronomy, astrology, and cosmology within the self. And womb health, the importance of a doula. So the main thing that I kind of work on is pre-birth, birth, and postnatal birth, and why it's so important for black women especially to have doulas. Does anyone know what a doula is? Yeah? 1. Anyone had a doula before? During birth? Or know of someone that's had a doula? No? 2. Okay, so it's not as common in the UK as it is in America, but it is becoming more popular, especially in the UK. But there's huge disparities between black women and other women in terms of maternal and fetal death rates. Black women are 4 to 5% more likely to die during childbirth than any other race. Now that's a call within itself for huge concern. There's issues happening that we don't really know. We don't really know the root of why it's happening. Is it a lack of education? Is there a lack of services for black women? Are we not being informed? I mean, the whole physiological and psychological process maybe, I don't think there's a lot of people that really understand that whole process. We're not educated on it. Even in school, we don't really get that education in terms of the whole birth and pregnancy process. And so there is social and economical issues, especially more in America with health insurance, but the statistics are still there, and the statistics are still strong to say that there is issues with women, black women having babies. And so when a doula is brought into that equation, it kind of assists in helping that woman to find her path, to empower that woman through her pregnancy journey. So when I'm talking about education, there's this thing or a myth around black women about talking about their experiences, especially when it comes to birth. We don't speak enough, especially when it comes to our children and our grandchildren. I know from my personal perspective, I wasn't really educated on that whole birth experience. I had to learn along the way, and this year I had my first baby boy. And I was training to be a doula throughout that time. And the information, the wealth of information that I got from that was so empowering for me, because I couldn't depend on the midwife to provide me with the information that she wasn't there to do. And I think we get confused with the concept that midwives are there to give us all the information. They're there to be of medical assistance. The nurse is there to do her role and take the protocols. But in terms of being able to assist us throughout that whole journey, we don't really get that education. So it's important to have that education. The physiological, psychological and spiritual shift that happens. Pregnancy and birth is very much a spiritual thing. And the more we go through time, the more it's become very medicalized. And so we've gone from this very traditional, natural aspects of birth to this very medicalized aspect of birth. And it's quite scary, because I know from my own experience that from the start I wanted to have a home birth. I wanted to stay at home, have a pool, and be in my own space, have my own smells, because I know how important it was in order for me to produce the right hormones to have a baby without any trauma involved. But with my midwife, she was all for it, but there was a few things that happened. My platelets. Platelets is basically what's in the blood. What happens is when you get pregnant, you get more plasma in the blood, and so the platelets drop. And so there's a threshold that it can't drop below, otherwise they'll say that there's a chance that you could bleed a lot. And so this was the issue for me, and it's only an issue if you want to stay at home. It's not an issue if you go to the hospital, it's only an issue if you stay at home. So there was an ongoing conversation with the midwife and obstetrician about my platelet levels. And bearing in mind, when I was 7 months pregnant, my mother passed away. It was this year. And then when I was 9 months pregnant, my auntie passed away. So I was on a very emotional roller coaster. And so I got transferred to a hematologist, and the hematologist kind of said to me, you need to stay in the hospital when you're giving birth. You know, I'm not too sure about you staying at home. You know, you need to be responsible. And it felt like this authority figure was speaking down at me. So it was if I didn't have the support of my partner and family, I think I would have broke, because it's not like he was supporting my experience. And that's the problem. A lot of healthcare practitioners are not supporting you as a whole. They're not understanding your cultural preferences or your differences. They're not taking on board what has happened in your past or your own experiences. You know, there's women out there that have been abused, that don't want to be touched. And what happens is that we go into a hospital, and it's almost like we have to give our bodies away to practitioners to do what they need to do to get this baby out. And so we miss that whole cycle. It's like, as long as baby's healthy, then that's fine, but we don't understand the psychological impacts of intervention could have. And so we disconnect from our intuition, and we kind of surrender to healthcare practitioners without having that ongoing information and education on what is needed for you personally. And that's where a doula comes in again, to educate that woman, but also to support that woman. So if that woman needs to go to any interview, any checkups, or to the hospital, she's got that information. She's equipped with the tools that she needs to ask the questions that she might need to ask, or get the information that she needs to ask. And so yeah, so we as a doula, I'm here to, well not I'm here, but it's on the rise. Doulas are here to promote women's health, to create more positive birth experiences and try and bring the statistics down with traumatic experiences during birth. And so that's a bit on the womb health that I'm talking about. The other one I'm talking about is energetic health. And so this is something that probably everyone has touched on at some point in their life, but not in as much depth. This is away from the womb. So as we are born and we take our first breath, we're born under a frequency, a vibration. And that vibration consists of energy in space. And I'm not talking about the energy of the room that we're in or the area that we're in. I'm talking about celestial space. So the energy of the space that we're born under. And when we're born, there's a specific vibration and alignment happening with planets, with what I call balls of energy. And the frequencies of that energy has an impact on our consciousness. And so we are naturally receivers of information. Our nervous system is designed to receive information constantly. And so we're susceptible to cosmic information. We feel the light waves, so we know that the light of the sun is affecting us because we feel it directly on our skin. But we don't pay attention to the other planets. We don't give any attention to the other planets because it's not designed as a light. It's not light waves. So all these planetary bodies are having an effect, but we're not conscious of the effect that it's having on us. And this answers the question: do you know who you are cosmically? And I say that in a sense like everyone knows the day they were born. So everyone understands and observes some type of astrology because you know your birthday. And your birthday is basically just a solar return. The point of when you was born, the sun does 365-degree rotation and it goes to the point where he was when he was born. So everyone acknowledges that, but then do we acknowledge the other planets? Every planet has a return. And that again is affecting our consciousness. Women more so when it comes to the moon cycle. We understand the moon cycle to a degree. So we all have 28, well, most of us have the 28-day womb cycle. Every 28 days, the moon will go back to the place where it was when you was born. So for example, if you was born with the moon in Aries, 28 days later, the moon will go back to the point of Aries. And on that day, or during that duration of that time, women, we start to ovulate. So that represents our cycle. So we're affected by these celestial bodies, but we don't connect it to astrology or astronomy. And so that's where the birth charts come into play. Everyone has their own unique, I call it a blueprint or a birthmark. It's not physical because it's not etched into the skin, but it's energetic. So it's always there without you actually seeing it or you feel it. I'm sure that everyone will feel it at some degree, but you don't actually see it, so you don't pay attention to it. But everyone has one. And birth charts are not just for humans or beings. You can create a birth chart for an event. You can create a birth chart for a project, you know, just to see the level of energy or the vibration or the frequency of that specific day where you're birthing a project or birthing a thing or birthing a baby. So it's quite broad in terms of just understanding energy and not just attaching it to human consciousness. It's a general organic thing. And so back to the point of everybody observes some level of astrology. There's a thing that, well, midlife crises. That's something that everyone kind of knows and speaks about. You can find loads of information about midlife crises online, in books and whatnot. But what we don't acknowledge or don't know is that it's an astrological event again. When we're born, the planet Uranus makes a 180-degree angle to itself, so it's facing itself. It's called an opposition. And so when that opposition is taking place, it happens every 40 to 42 years, right on the time when this so-called midlife crisis happens. And so that planet represents, it kind of shifts things, it shakes things up. It's known to be quite erratic, but it wants change, it wants freedom, it wants to do something out of the ordinary, it wants its youth back type thing. And that's what the energy represents in terms of what's happening on a celestial level. So understanding what's happening in the cosmos is so important to understanding what's happening in our lives without us even being switched on to connect the dots between the two. And so that comes down to looking at what electromagnetic energy is. And electromagnetic energy is affecting us constantly, all the time. We are born in a solar system which has an electromagnetic field. The solar system is affecting the Earth's electromagnetic field. The Earth's electromagnetic field is affecting our magnetic field. So we can't just say the sun's affecting us and we are children of the sun, and the sun hits our skin and we feel good, because every single planet is a part of that solar system and they work in unison. So to pick one aspect of the solar system out and not the rest is kind of defying intelligence. And so astrology can be fixed into all aspects of life, especially with anatomy. And so you've got different parts of the body that connect to different areas of space, and these areas of space represent different energies. And so, for example, we have the head, and the head is connected to Aries. You have Gemini. Gemini represent the limbs and the shoulders. There's also health aspects to that. So, for example, Gemini is the communicator. It represents communication. So when we're talking about communication and the lack of communication or stuck or trapped energy, it can turn into anxiety. The first place where you might find anxiety in the body is in the shoulders, and that's what's represented as Gemini. So when we're understanding anatomy and astronomy and medical astrology as well, it's really easy to find ailments that could be affecting us and really reverse them by understanding what kind of influence we had when we was born of the energy in the celestial sky. And so yeah, that's kind of a summary of the energetic side. But that's also transferred into the other aspect that I'm going to be talking about. Which is so this is just an example of the celestial sky. So this is a picture of, it's just a random, so I don't know who this person is, but it's just a picture of a birth chart. And what you see on the inside is the planets. So the planets are basically in a configuration. The lines that you can see is the alignments that are happening. So when we're born, everyone has a unique one. I've done charts for twins and found differences in between the two. So it's not so that people say, oh, if you're born on the same day, then you'll have the same chart as someone else. There's a lot of geography in that as well. So if you're born on an opposite side of the earth to where you were born, then it's going to have a different vibration. If you're born 2 minutes after your twin, then it's going to have a different vibration. So it's understanding your own personal blueprint. And with this person, I'm not going to read it now because I didn't plan to. But the energy on the inside is the influences of the balls of energy, I call them, or the planets. On the outside is the area of space. And this is something that our ancestors have been doing from the beginning of time, understanding when to do something, when to cultivate energy, when to plant seeds, when to hibernate. All them things were destined in terms of what was happening in the heavens. And I think we've kind of come away from that. When Babylonians took over and stamped their name on it, we kind of left it and said, well, it's got nothing to do with us. But our ancestors are originators of this. The Dendera calendar and zodiac is from ancient Egypt. And you can go to Egypt today and still see it all over the temples, on the pyramids. So it's something that we need to connect back to understand a deeper level of ourselves. And then last but not least, the physical health. So, as I mentioned, it's mainly tailored around yoga. So I'm a yoga teacher, and I've been practicing yoga for almost 9 years. I've been teaching it for about 5 years. But I think I put it under physical health, but there's so much more to yoga than just the physical aspect, what we see. And I think in the Western world, we kind of only view the aspects of yoga as being very physical, what you can do with your legs and and how far you can stretch in this position. And yoga is very much, it is about what you can do with your body, but it's very mental. And again, this is another thing that our ancestors used to do. Again, when I went to Egypt and found all these postures on the pyramids and the temples, it was interesting for me to understand that's where my roots in terms of yoga is. So it was important for me to really learn about yoga from an African system first, from a Kemetic system first. So I went to Uganda and got my first teacher training in Uganda, where I was able to understand the history of yoga and really put that into context with how we can utilize that, not just on the mat, but how we can utilize it in everyday life. It's more so a way of being rather than a way of doing. So you don't do yoga, you actually be yoga, and there's different aspects of it, and I'll go through it now, the 8 limbs of yoga. And it's just 8 principles that align us with how we attune ourselves to the yogic system. But again, this is another thing that's underrepresented in the black community for reasons, whether that's religious. I think there's a strong religious bias to yoga, generally, in terms of what it represents or perceptions of what it's seen to represent. But you cannot deny the health benefits of yoga. And more studies are showing how much or how transformative yoga is. So there's 8 limbs of yoga, and I'll just go briefly through the 8 principles. What's going on? We're good for time, Cam? Okay. So we've got yama, and yama is basically about right living. So right living is something that everyone can do without actually doing physical yoga. So this is again moving from that concept of what yoga is, yoga is going into a studio and doing the splits. No, it's about right living first. It's about how you attune yourself to your environment, the compassion that you have for other people, how you present yourself within the community or with people, or how you interact with people. Right living and non-violence. Non-violence tends to come back to diet, mental aspects, physical aspects, again, that interaction with other people. When I did my first and second training, the first aspect of the first thing that we had to do was to cleanse. We had to stop what we was doing, get changed, shower, sit down, and just be there for hours. Just to really cleanse, just to get deeper into ourselves. We wasn't allowed to do any physical practice. We had to sit down and just understand why we was there, understand what was happening in the mental state. So I'm sure that's something that we all do at some point, just sit down and observe our thought process. So that was the first one we had to do, purity of mind, speech and body. And that incorporated fasting. So I've been on a plant-based diet for over 10 years, but there was people on my course that wasn't on a plant-based diet. So for them, it was about really stripping from what they're used to in terms of the diet and the food and what they interpreted as good food, and incorporate this new diet, which was based on Ayurvedic system. And the Ayurvedic system is based on giving foods based towards your practice. So we wouldn't eat, for example, chickpeas when we was doing certain postures. We'd only eat certain vegetables when we was doing certain meditations. We wouldn't eat anything when we was meditating. We would just meditate on water. So it's tailoring the foods that we eat to what the practices that we was doing. And then we would go into the postures. So the postures are what you see yoga to be. The downward dog and whatever you see of yoga, the posture side. But the postures were really important because it's that point where we start to open up the body and we start to bring energy back into the body. So all this cleanliness that we've just done, we begin to open the body, and then going into the next one is bringing in pranayama, which is the breathing aspect. And the breathing aspect, that again is another important factor, because just generally we don't pay enough attention to breathing. We're not consciously aware of the breath we're taking until we become out of breath, and then we realise, oh, I'm out of breath. And once you get your breath back, and you kind of forget about breathing again. But because it's automatic, we kind of don't pay attention to deep breathing, deep conscious breathing, and that's a very important part of our health. Studies have shown that anxiety is connected to shallow breathing, and shallow breathing is just breathing from the chest and not from the diaphragm. So instantly, just understanding that one aspect of yoga can transform a lot of our health issues, just understanding how to breathe properly. And so we would spend hours just sitting down, learning how to, understanding pranayama and understanding how to breathe, bring life into the body. Then the next stage, pratyahara, which is sense withdrawal, and that aspect was about disconnecting from space, place, and time. So, as part of our yoga training, we had to go on a 10-day retreat, and the 10-day retreat was basically about 10 days of meditation and no speaking, no phones, no connection to the outside world. Just you sitting there for 10 days. Well, not literally, you go and have a shower and go to bed and then come back. But it's been in that space for 10 days without any form of external communication. And so for me, it was quite challenging because I was pregnant when I did this. So it was a beautiful journey, but it kind of it forces you to go inwards. And that's the power of meditation within itself. And I don't think we get the time because we're overstimulated with phones, with technology, with TVs, that we don't take the time to actually sit down and switch off from our senses. Everything needs some type of stimulation. And so within this 10 days, we would meditate for 15, 16 hours for the day, incorporate food in that, and then sleep, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day, and go back into meditation. So I'm not saying everyone should do that, but I think we should pay attention to actually spending some time from withdrawing from our senses and withdrawing from things that overstimulate us. And then we go to focus concentration. And again, that comes into the center withdrawal aspect as well, being concentrated, and then going into an absorption in that meditative state. The only way we can really understand the type of meditation and the depth of the meditation that we're in is when we become disconnected from what's going on inside and start to understand and observe that energy that's going on inside. And again, even talking about going back to the astrology, understanding different aspects of ourselves is all part of our health. We can't just focus on food and say, I eat well, I'm vegan, so my health is good. Or say, well, I meditate every day, so my health is good. Everything works in unison, so we have to take the time to really touch on every single aspect in order to bring some vitality back to our health, especially in the Black community. And then, last but not least, we went into samadhi. And samadhi is basically enlightenment. So once we go through this stage, it's not to say that everyone's going to reach enlightenment when they get to that point, but that's the essence, that's the end point of what yoga represents. It's about connecting to source, connecting to everything. And that's the overall aspect of the yoga side. Now, the significance of Metta Yoga. Metta Yoga incorporates the astrology and the yoga. So it works on two ancient systems, the astrology and the yoga system, and combining them two together. So Metta Yoga is a practice where we work based on the movement of the sun. So Aries season represents spring, and it represents the head. So we do yoga practices that are based around the head. If we look at Capricorn season represents the bones, so we go deep inside the bones. Everything is tailored towards the movement of the sun, and so it's important for us to kind of tune ourselves back into what's happening on a cosmic level. And back to that kind of astrology, we know what's happening in nature. Again, Capricorn season is a perfect example. So the sun goes into Capricorn season, first day of Capricorn season, and it represents the winter solstice. The solstice is represented by Saturn, the planet Saturn. So Saturn is the planet that deals with restriction. It's kind of like the cold planet, it's quite dark, but it's represented as a restricted planet. And then all we need to do is look out in nature and see what happens in nature. The sun is restricted of its light. The trees, you know, the leaves are stripped from the trees. Dark hours are extended, it gets colder. So again, we're using a system, well, we acknowledge the system, but we don't pay attention to it because we can't connect the dots. And so it's important to kind of, again, understand who we are on every level, understanding the astrological level, understanding the health, yoga level, and all the aspects that come with that as well. Camilla's disappeared.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, I'll do it without the other. I think that's it now anyway, so I need the next slide. I don't need it myself.
Sorry, ma'am.
Oh yeah, so, just so you've got the information. So, yeah, that's a summary of the services that I do, and I just want to stress how important these different aspects have helped me on my own personal journey. Astrology, when I first learned about astrology and I read my own self, I cried because I seen a reflection of myself in the cosmos, and the connection was so deep that it's something that I carry with me and I use as a tool, as a navigation tool up until this day. So understanding that and understanding who we are on every single level, not just one aspect of our health, is again important. So this is my information. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, forget the YouTube part for now, Twitter. You can email me on Nai-Davina@gmail.com if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask.
Yeah, you talked about the womb energy, etc. Is there any specialist research into this? What's the book
If you go online, you'll find loads. There's been so much research. Apparently, they stopped observing it in 2007 because the rates were just increasing. But there was a connection between black women not having the prenatal care and the postnatal care. And we've seen there's issues with, for example, Beyonce spoke about her traumatic experience. Serena Williams spoke about her traumatic experience with womb health and the healthcare system and providers not listening to their needs. So it's out there, the information is out there.
But what I said was like a specialist though. If it's general, random, that's one thing. Is there any specialised?
Well, the studies that are, they're medical studies. They're medical-based studies. It's not just a general population count, it's a general medical study. So you can find that information, you can find it everywhere. It's more so a problem in America, and it was an issue for when I was doing my doula course. My teacher wasn't a black woman, she was white, but she was telling me that she was showing me the statistics as well, that there's issues around black women and giving birth. And when I asked her why is that, and why is it that black women don't use doulas, she didn't have the answers. And so it's an ongoing issue that hasn't been resolved, that is still there, and the evidence is out there for us to see. It's just what we can do with that information to change, to make the experience that we have less traumatic.
Yeah, but
And so
America, I mean, Africa is disproportionately high in Africa.
Sorry?
Oh, it's disproportionately high mortality in Africa, and Malawi is particularly high there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's just general. There's a general rise in black women. So the issue is still Africa, America, the UK. The statistics are still high.
The stress considered.
Stress, not having. I know they connect it to social, economical issues in America, and finances. But again, just give me examples of Beyonce and Serena Williams, who are financially secure but are still faced with these issues. So is it really economical, you know?
I feel like it's because we're giving birth in an unnatural way.
Exactly.
I feel like that's really
yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because there's not enough cultural sensitivity to black women as a whole, and so our culture isn't taken into consideration. Like I mentioned before about my own personal experience. When my mum passed away, and the obstetrician was still like, you need to have a baby in hospital, you're being irresponsible, you shouldn't be in hospital. And I was like, I've just spent months with my mother in hospital, helping her to transition, and then you're going to tell me that I should have my baby in hospital where I don't feel comfortable. And what happens to the body with the hormones and oxytocin not flowing in the body because of the environment, that doesn't make sense, and that's going to create another traumatic experience, and then I'm going to be another statistic. So it's really about educating ourselves so we don't fall to these fears and threats from the healthcare providers. So yeah, that's the information. I'm running out of time. So the astrology reading you can find on the website. Beta Yoga is every Saturday at Chiltern One Yoga Studio at 1:15. Yeah, there's leaflets on the chairs. And so vibrations and food adventure that will be taking place again next year. We're doing an activation on winter solstice at Nai-Davina, which is formerly known as Nai Centre, on the 21st of... Winter solstice. Oh yeah. 21st of December. Sorry. And Back to Roots Project. I'm also part of Back to Roots Project, which is a youth-led organisation based on education, innovation, elevation. And we're going to be doing...
Any information, email us.
Yes, just email. Thank you everyone for taking time to listen to me.
Thank you, Susie. Amazing.